The road stretched out endlessly before me, a seemingly endless ribbon of asphalt cutting through the Arkansas wilderness. At first glance, it's just another highway, a trucker's lifeline, connecting cities, towns, and freight yards. But late at night, when the fog rolls in and the moon is hidden behind a thick blanket of clouds, the road changes. Ask any long-haul trucker who's made this journey after sundown, and they'll tell you, there are stories. Stories that can make even the toughest driver second-guess pulling into a rest stop. What happens on the Arkansas highway in the dead of night? Some say it's nothing more than the mind playing tricks. Others, well, they aren't so sure. This stretch of highway has seen thousands of trucks pass through, day in and day out. For most drivers, it's just another part of the job, another route to conquer. But for some, there's something about this place that sticks with you long after the miles have passed. Tales have circulated for years, strange happenings, sightings, and unexplainable events. Truckers share these stories at stops, during fuel-ups, and over their radios. No one can quite put their finger on what's happening out there, but the Arkansas highway has earned a reputation. Perhaps it's the isolation, the miles of road where you don't see another soul for hours. Or maybe it's the way the fog creeps in, making the world around you feel smaller, quieter, more distant. It's been said that on certain nights, when the conditions are just right, something more than weather lingers in the air. Truckers talk about odd things on this road, vehicles that seem to appear and disappear, figures standing by the roadside that vanish when you get closer, and radios picking up voices that no one can explain. Some chalk it up to exhaustion or stress from long hours behind the wheel, but others have seen things they can't quite explain. Long-haul truckers know the road better than anyone. They spend countless hours alone behind the wheel, guiding their rigs through vast stretches of highway that seem to blend into one another. Fatigue is an ever-present companion. It creeps in slowly, first as a dull pressure behind the eyes, then as heavy eyelids fighting to stay open. No matter how many cups of coffee or how much caffeine you've had, the road has a way of lulling you into a state of exhaustion. And it's not just the fatigue that wears you down. The isolation gets to you, too. For miles, there's nothing but the road and the hum of the engine. You drive through towns that are nothing more than a flicker of lights in the distance, past rest stops that seem abandoned, save for the occasional truck pulled over. Sometimes, you go hours without seeing another vehicle. It's easy to start feeling like the only person left in the world. But the night brings its own set of challenges. Strange noises that can't be explained, an odd rattle in the cab, the sudden howl of wind, or a distant sound that doesn't seem quite natural. Some truckers report hearing voices on their CB radios, voices that don't belong to anyone on their frequency. Static-filled whispers, unintelligible, yet chilling. These challenges, fatigue, isolation, the eerie quiet of the night, wear down even the toughest trucker. Your mind starts playing tricks, the shadows along the highway seem to move, and every unfamiliar sound becomes something more. It's in these moments, when you're already on edge, that the strange experiences seem to come to life. It was just after midnight, on a particularly foggy night, when a lone trucker was making his way through the Arkansas highway. The road had been quiet for hours, no cars, no other trucks, just the low rumble of his engine and the hypnotic rhythm of the tires against the asphalt. Then, through the haze of fog, he saw it, a figure standing by the side of the road, barely visible in the distance. At first, it looked like a stranded driver, waving for help. But something was off, the way they stood, motionless, barely illuminated by the truck's dim headlights. He slowed down, the weight of his rig groaning against the road as he approached. His instinct was to pull over, maybe it was someone in trouble, maybe they needed help. But the closer he got, the stranger it felt. The figure didn't move, didn't step out of the fog, didn't wave again. It was just standing there. He could feel the cold now, the kind of cold that creeps in, even with the heater blasting inside the cab. It wasn't normal, not for this time of year. And yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that stopping was the wrong choice. But he did stop. He rolled down his window and called out. No response. The figure just stood there, still as a statue. He thought maybe they didn't hear him, so he turned off the engine, the hum of the truck fading into silence. And then, in the blink of an eye, the figure was gone. Vanished. No footsteps, no sound, just an empty road. The fog seemed thicker now, wrapping around his truck like a shroud. He sat there for a moment, frozen in disbelief. What had he just seen? He threw the truck into gear and sped off, his heart racing. As the highway disappeared behind him, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching from the fog. The road stretched out ahead, but he knew he wouldn't forget that figure anytime soon. Have you ever seen something strange on the road? Maybe a figure that wasn't there when you looked again? We want to hear your scariest trucking experiences. Drop your stories in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling trucker horror stories. It was a few nights after the encounter with the mysterious figure. The trucker, now more aware of the strange happenings on the Arkansas highway, found himself driving down a nearly empty stretch of road. The fog had returned, thicker than ever, limiting his visibility to just a few feet ahead. That's when he saw it, two faint red taillights flickering through the fog. Another truck, up ahead. It was moving slowly, barely keeping pace. He didn't think much of it at first. Just another trucker, perhaps feeling the same exhaustion that was starting to weigh on him. As the minutes passed, he realized something wasn't right. No matter how much he pressed on the accelerator, the taillights ahead didn't get any closer. He could feel the truck's engine working harder, the tires biting into the asphalt, but it was like chasing a shadow. The taillights flickered, sometimes almost disappearing into the mist, only to reappear just as faintly as before. Frustration turned to something darker, a gnawing sense of unease. He was no longer sure this was just another truck. He pushed the pedal harder, determined to close the gap, but no matter how fast he went, the lights remained just out of reach. And then, without warning, the lights flickered one last time, and vanished. Not into the fog. Not off the road. They simply disappeared, as if the truck ahead had never been there at all. He slowed the truck, heart pounding, hands shaking. He had been on the road for hours, but exhaustion didn't explain this. Trucks don't just vanish. He checked his mirrors, scanned the road again, but there was nothing. Just the empty highway stretching out before him, as if the vehicle he had been chasing had never existed. Have you ever experienced something like this? A vehicle you couldn't catch up to, or something that vanished before your eyes? One of our viewers shared a similar story. Late at night, on a different stretch of highway, they saw a phantom truck that disappeared into thin air, just like this one. We love hearing your stories, so don't forget to leave a comment below with your own encounters on the road. Be sure to like this video, subscribe for more trucker horror stories, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. There are countless stories like these out there. Maybe your experience will be the next one we feature. By now, the trucker was rattled. Between the figure on the roadside and the vanishing vehicle, he wasn't sure what to think. He needed a break, somewhere to collect his thoughts and shake off the unease that clung to him. That's when he spotted the dim glow of a truck stop in the distance, a beacon of safety, or so he thought. As he pulled in, something felt wrong. The neon sign above the station flickered weakly, barely illuminating the empty lot. No other trucks. No cars. Not a soul in sight. It was as if this place had been forgotten. He parked the rig, turned off the engine, and stepped out. The air was thick, unnaturally still. As he approached the gas station, the lights above flickered even more. He hesitated but kept walking. Inside the truck stop, there was nothing. No attendant, no sound, just silence. The kind that makes your skin crawl. He grabbed a cup of coffee from the machine, hoping to settle his nerves, but even the smell seemed off, stale, as if it had been sitting for days. Then came the voices. Faint at first, like a whisper, but growing louder. They crackled through his radio, overlapping each other, unintelligible, disembodied. It sounded like people were talking, but he couldn't make out the words. His heart raced as he rushed back to the truck, ready to get out of there. But when he tried to start the engine, nothing happened. The truck wouldn't turn over. The radio kept playing the phantom voices, getting louder, filling the cab with a sense of panic. He glanced at his mirrors, and that's when he saw them. Figures, just faint outlines, but unmistakable. They were there, moving closer, surrounding the truck. His breath hitched. He turned the key again and again, praying the truck would start. The radio went silent for a moment, and then, the engine roared to life. Without wasting another second, he floored it, speeding out of the truck stop, leaving the strange voices and shadowy figures behind. What is it about the Arkansas highway that makes truckers experience things like this? Is it the long hours, the isolation, or the late-night drives that play tricks on their minds? Some say it's just exhaustion, mixed with a bit of superstition, but these stories keep coming. Drivers who refuse to travel this route at night, others who have reported similar unexplainable events, voices, figures, and vehicles that shouldn't be there. For decades, the stories of the Arkansas highway have persisted. Some truckers choose to ignore them, chalking it up to the strain of the job. But others, they aren't so sure. Is it all just tricks of the mind, or is there really something haunting this stretch of road? One thing's for sure, when the sun sets, and the fog rolls in, the Arkansas highway becomes more than just a road. It's a place where reality and the unknown blur together, leaving those who dare to travel it questioning what they've seen, and what's still out there, waiting. Have you ever driven down the Arkansas highway? What's the scariest thing you've experienced on the road? We'd love to hear your stories, so drop them in the comments below, and let us know if there are other haunted highways or spooky locations we should explore in our next video. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and tap the notification bell so you don't miss more chilling stories from the road. The Arkansas Highway still stands today, winding through the misty landscape of the state, as desolate and foreboding as ever. New stories continue to emerge, truckers who dare to take the route at night, encountering strange figures, phantom vehicles, and voices that don't belong to anyone. Some say it's all in your head, but others know better. For them, the highway isn't just a stretch of road, it's a place where reality slips away, leaving you to face whatever lurks in the shadows. Some roads are just better left unexplored. Until next time, keep your eyes on the road, and watch your mirrors, because you never know what might be following.